Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
My friends, do you smoke, vape, or chew tobacco? If so, Knick Knack Naturals is here to help you crush your vice. Knick Knacks are nicotine mints that completely dissolve in your mouth. No smoke, no spit, no mess. This product is only for folks currently using nicotine products who are looking for a better alternative. Visit knickknack.com and use promo code Todd to save 15%. That's NICNAC, knickknack.com, promo code Todd.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You have tuned in to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. I am your host, the one and only Todd Huff. I was out last week, and you probably missed me, and I can understand that, but it is good to be back. We had some good guest hosts, Gary Varvel, Micah Clark, John Crane. I want to say thank you to all of those gentlemen for filling in for us as we were out last week. And I hope you enjoyed your time with them. And we've got ground to cover to make up here. After being out last week, I want to continue what we were talking about in the first hour. Here we are in hour number 2 of this program. If you want to listen to the full context of what we discussed, or the full context of Trump's showdown with Zelenskyy in the Oval Office, we're going to pick up there. So I went through the, about 6.5 minute clip with Trump, Zelenskyy, and J.D. Vance. We did that last hour, and I'm going to reference that. So you almost have certainly seen a clip of what happened, but you might have only seen a tiny bit of it. So we went through the entire clip, and that's going to be relevant for what we discuss here in this particular hour of the Todd Huff Show. So if you missed that, you can check that out. Before I get started or too much down that path today, my friends, let me tell you about Kenai Fish. Kenai Fish is a family-owned company that brings you the absolute best wild-caught Alaskan seafood. We're talking salmon straight from the world-famous Kenai and Kasaloff rivers, sockeye, coho, and king salmon, my friends. Or how about halibut from the Gulf of Alaska? Not to be confused with the Gulf of America now, but this halibut is mild, sweet, and perfect for grilling, for baking, or even for air frying. And don't forget their shellfish, king crab, snow crab, scallops, and more. It's all sustainably harvested, vacuum sealed for freshness, and shipped next day air right to your door. Kenai Fish is for people who care about quality. And let's be honest, if you're listening to this show, my friends, that includes you. So all you have to do is go to KenaiFish.com. That's Kenai, KenaiFish.com, and use promo code Todd to save 15% on your purchase. That's Kenai, KenaiFish.com. Trust me, your taste buds and your family will certainly thank you. All right, so Now, let us get to the continuation of what we talked about last hour, which again, if you want the full context of what happened in the Oval Office between Zelenskyy, Trump, and J.D. Vance, check out the previous hour of today's show. If you don't need that, then let's continue our discussion of that. Now, you know, if you've listened to this show, or if you've ever ventured, maybe by mistake, over to CNN, that CNN has a guy on there. There's basically one guy that makes sense over there at that network, and that's a guy by the name of Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings is a conservative Republican, usually swimming in a sea of leftist lunatics over there. And typically what happens, they have Scott on, and they have to, Rush Limbaugh used to say, half his brain tied behind his back just to make it fair. That's kind of what they try to do at CNN. They put about 3 or 4, sometimes maybe even 5 liberals at the table with Scott Jennings just to keep it fair, because he runs circles around these lunatics who are living in a bizarro universe. So he is actually out there on CNN making as much sense, and probably more so, than anyone else out there today. Now, this is Scott Jennings explaining to, this time, Laura Coates. And this time it's just Laura Coates, who's, of course, is a liberal CNN host. And there's another gentleman on here, too. His name, I don't have it in front of me, but it does pop up here. I think he's with the Washington Post, if I'm not mistaken. So I want to play this. This is from David Gochstein's TikTok account. He has some clips, audio clips that we sometimes use here on the program, and sometimes there's some music behind this. Of course, the music is laid in, but this clip, the only place that I could find it, there'll be some music in the background. Anyway, I just want you to listen to this very concise explanation of what was supposed to happen during the meeting between Zelenskyy, Trump, and Vance, instead of that brouhaha that erupted on Friday instead. So that being said,
I don't know if he needs an apology. He needs Zelenskyy to recognize the position that he's in.
Which to you is what?
We're their patron. We're their best hope for the killing to stop and for them to emerge from this sovereign and prosperous. And we're also their best hope as a business partner. I mean, all Zelenskyy had to do today was put on a tie, show up, smile, say thank you, sign the papers, and have lunch. That's it.
That's all he had to do.
And he couldn't do that. And this followed 10 days of being difficult in private, and now 1 day of being stupid in public. This did not have to go down this way.
Okay.
And however you feel about why it started, why it's going on, who's right and who's wrong, we can help them in this and come out okay on the other side, and he's making it hard.
Now, first of all,
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I actually agree with Scott. And everything that he said was basically right.
Wow.
I know, I'm going to get killed on social media for admitting that, but so be it. And the fact is that it doesn't matter whether Vice President Vance planned it or just took the opportunity to bait Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy took the bait, okay? Yeah. And he shouldn't have. He made a mistake.
I don't know why they're so intent. Why they're so intent on blaming the Trump administration or Vance in this particular case for baiting Zelenskyy. Zelensky's the one. I mean, again, the full context, which we went through last hour, and I tried to present it fairly. But the reality is, and I do that for a reason, by the way. I want to make sure that for the liberals or the folks on the Democratic side of the aisle, a lot of times they don't want to hear the things that someone like me, someone like you, might be saying to them because they can't get past some things. And so I try to be overly fair sometimes, too fair to the left in many instances, not because I think that there's anything there, but I'm trying to reach the people that have been blinded by the narrative that is often the result of what they hear in the media from the Democratic talking heads and that sort of thing. And so I tried to say, some of the things that that Zelenskyy was saying in this meeting, they might be valid questions, but they had an opportunity to be aired, to be discussed behind closed doors long before this meeting was to ever actually take place. And that is, sorry, I'm queuing up another soundbite here. And that's what I'm about to play you here, a soundbite from Secretary Scott Bessent. He is the Secretary of the Treasury. He was on with Margaret Brennan of CBS, who we know Margaret. She had that infamous interview with J.D. Vance. She had an interview with someone else. She's not she's not a journalist. She is leading the PR firm at CBS for the Democrat Party. She is a propagandist. She is here to further the cause of the Democrat Party, to obstruct the Republican Party. Again, just imagine if we were this close under the Biden administration to getting Vladimir Putin to sit down with Zelenskyy at the table to negotiate peace. I mean, this should be something that we can all get behind, is the idea that a ceasefire would be the conclusion here. Because again, the options here are not many. There are not many options as to what happens. Russia either totally annihilates Ukraine, wipes them effectively off the face of the planet. The United States of America and maybe other European nations gets pulled into this war, or there's a peace settlement. There's really no other alternative. I mean, logically speaking, you could say Ukraine wins this war, but that is just simply not a probable outcome in the slightest. The only reason they've been able to last this long is for reasons that we spoke about earlier, which include the funding provided by the United States of America and from European allies, and the weaponry provided by the United States as well. Ukraine is not in a good position. As Trump says, Ukraine doesn't hold any of the cards. They only have cards in this deal, in this high-stakes game of poker, because of the United States of America. And that's what Friday was supposed to be about. And that's what Secretary Bessent's going to try to explain to Margaret Brennan over at CNN here. And that's what I want to cue up next. This is about a minute soundbite of him explaining what was supposed to happen on Friday compared to, of course, what happened in reality, which we've already covered in detail. So here he is, Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, explaining to Margaret Brennan what was supposed to happen on Friday during that meeting between Trump, Vance, and Zelenskyy.
It's impossible to have an economic deal without a peace deal. The sine qua non for an economic deal is that Ukrainian leadership wants a peace deal.
I thought this was a building block towards getting to
a peace deal. It was supposed to be, but President Zelenskyy came into the Oval on Friday.
Listen to this.
There were three things that were going to be done. There was going to be a press conference. There was going to be a private lunch with 16 of us. And as you could see from Dan Scavino's the post on his X account, we were already set up to sign the deal. So it's unclear now. President Zelenskyy has thrown off the sequencing. And Margaret, let me tell you the most tragic part of this. The President Trump's idea for this economic arrangement was to further intertwine the American people and the Ukrainian people and show no daylight, to show the Russian leadership that there was no daylight. And President Zelenskyy came into the Oval Office and tried to relitigate in front of the world the deal. And the place to have done it would have been in the private lunch.
Yes, that would have been the place to have done that. And he did not choose to do that. So now, for those on the left who may be listening to me now, if you want to hear me being more than fair to Zelenskyy, listen to the previous hour. Now we begin to get more information and more context here. The full context is that this particular deal was already worked out. There was a private meeting, a luncheon, and there was going to be a press conference. Zelenskyy did not bring these things up, did not litigate this behind closed doors. He waited until the cameras were rolling to do this. He waited until there was an opportunity for him to do this in front of everyone, undermining the entire discussions. Just think about that for a moment. We're told that Trump can't be trusted. We're told that our allies don't trust Donald J. Trump, when in reality, who's the one here who deserves to not be trusted? Who's the one here who pulled the rug out from underneath the Trump administration and this ceasefire? Now, this is not the end of the world to Trump. Trump is going to figure this out. That is going to happen. We are moving towards a situation for peace. But right now, the administration has said the deal that was supposed to be signed last week on Friday, instead we had this brouhaha erupt instead. This is not, the deal that was agreed to Friday is not currently on the table. Isn't this lovely? Zelenskyy now suddenly says he's ready to sign the deal, but now the Trump administration says that it's not going to be the case. In fact, I'm trying to open up an article here. Where'd that thing go? And that's in the stack of stuff. For some reason, this link isn't working. Hold on here. We'll just copy and paste this guy. There it is down here. Okay. This is at the epictimes.com. U.S. says deal with Ukraine not on the table for now. Zelenskyy says he's ready to sign it. So you talk about a complete flip, a complete 180. You had the United States on Friday prepared to announce this at the press conference, Trump and Vance, to the world, showing solidarity with Zelenskyy. As Secretary Bessent just pointed out, we wanted to show that there was an economic tie here, but he says in order for there to be this economic deal, there has to be a pursuit of peace. You can't have the economic deal. They're kind of dependent upon each other, right? So in order for us to have a deal where we are having an economic agreement between the United States and Ukraine, more closely tying the American people to the Ukrainian people, showing the Russians, showing Putin that there's no daylight between the United States and the Ukrainians. We just want this war to end. We are not abandoning our allies, but we are willing to negotiate a ceasefire and an end to this war. It's kind of the best of both worlds. We're standing with the Ukrainians while at the same time doing their bidding. We've provided them with weaponry and money. We say we want this thing to end. We're tight with the Ukrainian people. We've got an economic deal, but it's predicated upon this actually moving in the direction of peace. And Zelenskyy said no on Friday. Zelenskyy said no. And so Trump said, then forget it. The deal's off the table. Now Zelenskyy says he's ready to sign. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said it's impossible to have an economic deal without a peace deal. I just read to you that played for you that soundbite. Here's what the article at the Epic Times says. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Sunday that an economic deal with Ukraine is not currently on the table after a heated exchange between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy in the Oval Office. President Trump's idea for this economic arrangement was to further intertwine the American people and Ukrainian people and show no daylight. That's, again, what Scott Bessent told Margaret Brennan of Face the Nation. To show the Russian leadership, he continued, that there was no daylight, and President Zelenskyy came into the Oval Office, and tried to relitigate in front of the world the deal. The February 28th meeting, that was the meeting on Friday, on the U.S.-Ukraine Minerals Agreement, which would see U.S. investment go into Ukraine to jointly develop the nation's vast rare earth minerals resources and allow the United States to access $500 billion worth of deposits, escalated into a public argument between the two sides. During the meeting, Zelenskyy said that he would not accept a ceasefire without security guarantees from the United States. Again, think about that. what he's really asking for here. You talk about a step towards the United States being in war with Russia. I mean, that is that's the direction that we don't want to go. He then suggested that Russian President Vladimir Putin couldn't be trusted to honor a potential peace agreement because he had broken a ceasefire agreement 25 times. Now, of course, there can be some. I mean, we should be very aware of what we're doing and dealing with here, but at the same time, the United States of America has not entered into broker this agreement, especially previously, especially under this leadership. The circumstances have changed. Things are different. Putin has watched this President Trump, come into the Oval Office here for his second non-consecutive term and do a whole bunch in a very short period of time. What's he been president now? For 6 weeks or so, President Trump. He has secured our border. Did you see, by the way, border crossings are down 94% February of 25 compared to February of 24. 94% fewer encounters along our southern border. It is truly remarkable. It was stopped immediately, which goes to show that everything that we had said previously on this program, that Biden could have secured our border had he really wanted to. That could have been done at any moment in time. Instead, they blamed Congress. They blamed Republicans. Heck, they blamed Trump, who didn't even have any political power, because he told Congress, he lobbied Congress not to pass the bill that Biden wanted them to pass, which of course included more funding and so forth for the southern border. But it was actually just another massive spending bill that included a bunch of other things as well. But Putin has watched this. Putin knows Trump. Putin has much more respect. It is crazy to me for people who think that Putin feared Joseph Robinette bribery more than he feared Donald J. Trump. You cannot possibly be serious. This cannot be a serious take in 2025 to think that the Russians and Vladimir Putin fear President bribery or feared him more than they fear President Trump. Putin has sat back and watched how Trump has threatened and even moved forward with tariffs against other countries. Trump is waiting. Trump will drop the hammer on Putin economically if Putin does not move towards some sort of peace settlement. This is not the same circumstances and situation. Could Putin violate the ceasefire? Absolutely. Putin could do that. But we know without a shadow of a doubt that the war will continue if a ceasefire is at least not pursued. This needs to at least be given a chance because it is the best alternative, the best option that we have. Again, we've only got 3 options. Option 1 is that Ukraine is wiped off the face of the planet by Russia. Russia wins the war. Russia takes maybe all of Ukraine. Number 2, the United States gets pulled into this war. Other European nations get pulled into this war. And number 3, there's a peace deal. That's clearly the best option. There certainly have to be some non-negotiables, but we have to work to find the deal to try to satisfy both parties to end this conflict. That is in everyone's best interest. And I'm out of time here in the first segment. Quick timeout, my friends. You're listening here to Conservative, Not Bitter Talk. I am your host, the one and only Todd Huff, back here in just a minute.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
My friends, do you smoke, vape, or chew tobacco? If so, Knick Knack Naturals is here to help you crush your vice. Knick Knacks are nicotine mints that completely dissolve in your mouth. No smoke, no spit, no mess. This product is only for folks currently using nicotine products who are looking for a better alternative. Visit knickknack.com and use promo code Todd to save 15%. That's N-I-C-N-A-C, knickknack.com, promo code Todd. Looking for the ultimate natural health supplement? Z-Stack is a trusted brand formulated by Dr. Zelenko with clinically proven ingredients and proudly manufactured in the USA. Z-Stack is the choice of true patriots who want to fight against the corrupt medical system. Go to zstacklife.com/Todd and use code Todd at checkout to save 15% off your purchase. Z-Stack, empowering you to stay prepared, stay safe, and stay strong. Welcome back, my friends. Here we are, segment 2 of the second hour of the program today. Again, we were out last week. We're trying to make up a lot of lost ground. and a lot of things happened, of course, on Friday, which we're trying to get through. In fact, Zelenskyy made his way over to Fox News to sit down with Bret Baier. And Bret Baier asked him what his thoughts were about J.D. Vance and basically if J.D. Vance ambushed him. Now, Senator Chris Murphy, who is a Democrat from the state of Connecticut, called this a planned ambush designed to help a brutal Russian dictator and hurt America's security. Because, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I've given you the full context. I don't want to go through this entire thing again today because there is so much, again, to take into account here. We spent a whole hour going through the exchange, the fight, the argument that took place there in the Oval Office between Zelenskyy, Trump, and Vance. Zelenskyy, Trump, and Vance. So, but the idea that Trump and Vance ambushed him, specifically, I guess, Vance, the ambush was clearly, when you see the full context, by Zelenskyy. As Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, pointed out, this all could have been dealt with behind closed doors. There was a luncheon. The deal was ready to be signed. In fact, there's posts of this ready showing what was about to happen. The deal was about to be inked, and Zelenskyy made a last-minute change. This reminds me, as I'm saying this, I hadn't thought about this until now. There was a deal in the 1980s, Gorbachev and Reagan, and I'm trying to remember specifics on what it was, but this was back when we were negotiating constantly. We had summits, nuclear non-proliferation agreements, things like that. The arms race, trying to keep there from being a World War III. Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev met several times. And I'm reminded one of these encounters, they were close to negotiating a deal. And the detail escapes me here. But what I want to share with you is that there was a last-minute change that Gorbachev made at the negotiating table. He basically agreed to everything, and he threw something in there that was unacceptable to Reagan. And at the time, there's a lot of details here. I'm not going to get this exactly right, but I remember the gist of this. Reagan, whoever he was in the meeting with, once the final demand was made, so Gorbachev accepted everything and basically said, oh, by the way, one more thing, and he makes some other request. Reagan looks over at whoever was in the meeting with him. I don't know if it was Secretary of State or whomever. And he said, well, I guess this meeting's over. And he walks out of the meeting. High-stakes meeting, a lot hanging on this. But that was done by the Soviets to Reagan back in the 80s. And a similar thing was done here by Zelenskyy to Trump and J.D. Vance. And when you watch the full context of this thing, when you listen to its, we went through 6 minutes and 30 seconds of this in the first hour today. So when you see the first hour, to conclude that J.D. Vance planned an ambush of Zelenskyy is a preposterous conclusion to come to. But of course, to the foaming at the mouth radical leftists out there, this is what they wanted to believe anyway. In their minds, they were going to be unhappy with this deal, with whatever the outcome was between Zelenskyy and Trump, because they hate Trump so much. In fact, the radical left hates this country so much. This country is founded. But this idea here that they were just non-biased people watching this outcome and concluded objectively that J.D. Vance is the one that ambushed Zelenskyy is preposterous. I mean, it's absolutely insanely preposterous. And so I want to play a clip. Zelenskyy is asked about this by Bret Baier on Fox News, special report with Bret Baier on Fox News. And I'll get to that here in a moment, my friends. But before I do that, friends, you know that there is nothing more important than a good night's sleep. I'll tell you, on our trip, I had some really, really good sleep. And it is fantastic when you have a good night's sleep. It's where we recharge to fight the battles of the day, whether that's raising our families, working hard, or standing up for what's right in this great country. That's why I love My Pillow. They've got everything you need. Their patented pillows, luxurious towels, and unbelievably comfortable slippers that feel like you are walking on the clouds, my friends. And let's not forget, these products are made right here in the good old U.S. of A. You're not just buying comfort, you're supporting American jobs and American values. That's a win-win in my book, my friends. Here's the deal. Go to mypillow.com, use promo code TODD for big savings on the products they offer there. Don't wait, whether it's for your sleep, your mornings, or just a little bit of extra comfort, MyPillow has you covered. MyPillow.com, promo code TODD. Comfort, my friends, that you can believe in. All right, that being said, let's play this soundbite. Zelenskyy sitting down here with Bret Baier, asked about whether he thought he was ambushed by J.D. Vance, and here is what he had to say.
The confrontation in the Oval Office today was pre-planned, like Senator Murphy suggests?
I don't know.
You don't know? You think maybe?
I don't know. No. I don't. I mean, this. I don't know about it. I think no. I think it was just a really tough situation because we've been very open, very direct.
What set you off? What made you mad? Because they said your tenor and tone.
It's not about mad. It's not, Brad. You see, how to say, when you are in the United States, and for example, president or vice president or somebody or senators, it doesn't matter, big politicians, yes, when they, for example, say that Ukraine is almost destroyed, that our soldiers run away, that they are not heroes, that Ukraine lost millions of civilians, that his president is dictator, you know? What is the reaction? It's not about me. The reaction is that where is our friendship between Ukraine and the United States? That's it. This is filling.
So where is our friendship? That's what he's saying he's worried about here. Because the United States is questioning his country, is questioning his leadership. I don't know if Zelenskyy is just trying to find some sort of a political cover to hide behind here. But that's crazy, my friends. The friendship of the United States of America gave you billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to fight and protect yourself against the Russians. The friendship you had specifically with the United States through President Donald Trump got you weapons, got you Javelin missiles, pretty sophisticated way to defend yourself. What do you mean? Where's the friendship of the United States of America? We negotiated a situation whereby we were willing to walk alongside you to negotiate a ceasefire with Putin, and you decided instead to completely and utterly ignore what was happening, what was supposed to happen, and instead do your own bidding. Change the rules of the game in the last minute. Pull the rug out from under the Trump administration. What do you mean? Where's the friendship in that? Where is your friendship? Where is your appreciation, President Zelenskyy, with all due respect, to this great nation? We don't owe you this. We're not obligated to fight your battles. Yes, the people of the United States are sympathetic. Yes, the people of the United States would like to see the Ukrainian people free from bombing attacks and war in their part of the world. Absolutely. To say that you don't have friendship with the United States because we're questioning things, because we've seen some of the videos of people being taken off the streets and forced into military service, because we've heard and seen some of the things that you have done. In fact, I've got a clip here. I didn't know if I was going to get to it. I will get to it. It's going to be in the next segment now. But we've got Tulsi Gabbard, who put out a social media video where she's raising some questions about things about Zelenskyy. Listen, people act as though in order to be in favor of the Ukrainian people, or let me say it this way, in order to be against Putin, you have to be in favor of Zelenskyy. It doesn't mean that either one of these guys are good people. It doesn't mean that, when we fought World War II, and I'll get into this a little bit in the last segment, but when we fought World War II in this country, we were allies with Joseph Stalin, the maniacal dictator of the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin, who killed millions of people, at least 20, some suggest even many millions more than that. So, you can be allied with somebody without them being a great person. It's not necessarily that what Zelenskyy or who Zelenskyy is, the things he wants to do and how he governs is the perfect example of how things should be done, and Putin's everything that's evil and wrong with the world. These both can be people who are evil or who are not proponents of true liberty, democracy, as we say, and so forth. Anyway, talk about that in the final segment. I'll play that soundbite from Tulsi Gabbard. I have to take a time out, though. You're listening here to Conservative, Not Bitter Talk, my friends. By the way, be careful out there driving today because listening can cause you to lean to the right. So I have advised you of that. Exercise extreme caution when driving a vehicle, operating heavy machinery, or maybe even just walking down the hallway with a glass of coffee, my friends. Back here in just a minute.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
My friends, do you smoke, vape, or chew tobacco? If so, Knick Knack Naturals is here to help you crush your vice. Knick Knacks are nicotine mints that completely dissolve in your mouth. No smoke, no spit, no mess. This product is only for folks currently using nicotine products who are looking for a better alternative. Visit knickknack.com and use promo code Todd to save 15%. That's NICNAC, knickknack.com, promo code Todd. Looking for the ultimate natural health supplement? Z-Stack is a trusted brand formulated by Dr. Zelenko with clinically proven ingredients and proudly manufactured in the USA. Z-Stack is the choice of true patriots who want to fight against the corrupt medical system. Go to zstacklife.com/Todd and use code Todd at checkout to save 15% off your purchase. Z-Stack, empowering you to stay prepared, stay safe, and stay strong. Welcome back, my friends. Oz asked me a question here during the break that I want to clarify. Now, she doesn't hear the sound bites I play, so maybe some of this is covered when you hear the sound bite. But I just want to make sure that I'm clear. She asked me why I had said that Trump had given support to Ukraine, or that J.D. Vance had said that. Because we haven't given any new money to Ukraine since Trump has been president. I mean, maybe money was going out the door. I don't, Doge has been trying to get this stuff under wraps and so forth, but there have been no new deals where the administration has signed off on more aid going to to Ukraine under this administration. I was talking specifically back in Trump's first term. He had given the Ukrainian military Javelin missiles to defend themselves from the Russians because Russia had already taken Crimea under the Obama administration. And Trump, if you listen to the soundbite I played earlier, where I think it was even last hour, where he was telling Zelenskyy, Obama gave you sheets, maybe Biden or Obama gave you sheets, I gave you javelins, which is true. Biden did give some missiles to the Ukrainians at the end of his term, which actually a lot of people questioned that because fears that might escalate the conflict because of the type of missiles that were given. But regardless, the bottom line here is that Trump had been supporting Ukraine and trying to prevent this from happening, and it's worth noting that it didn't happen on Trump's watch for sure. All right, so that being said, I told you that I was going something. Sorry, it's started playing. But Tulsi Gabbard did a short social media video talking about Zelenskyy. You know, this, again, I said in this final segment, and I've got to cram it in, but after the end of World War II, it was Churchill, it was FDR here in the United States, and it was Joseph Stalin in the USSR. Those were the three primary Allied forces that defeated Hitler in Europe. In fact, the Russians, the Soviets, they suffered the most losses, and really on the Eastern Front of that war, I took a ton of casualties and did a lot of fighting. Now, we certainly, of course, stormed the beaches of Normandy, came in from Western Europe. But the bottom line is we worked together. And Stalin was not a good guy. There's no doubt. Stalin was an evil, evil man. But so was Hitler. And Stalin was on the right side of the battle in this particular instance. And so we worked with Stalin. Now, at the conclusion of that war, we had a divided Europe. We had East Germany and West Germany. In fact, the whole situation with the end of the Cold War has led us to the brink of where we are today. I don't have, to some degree, I don't have time to go through that specifically today because I don't have much time. But the bottom line is, just because we fought with Stalin in World War II wasn't our stamp of approval for everything Stalin did. The reality was that we needed to work alongside with him. He was on He was on the right side of that conflict, and we worked alongside him. Then we had a 40-year Cold War at the conclusion of World War II, and now we're still seeing the effects of some of that today with this conflict. Now, so the point is, Zelenskyy doesn't have to be good while Putin is bad. Zelenskyy may not be good either. So, and this is what Tulsi Gabbard wants to share, and I'm going to play this.
The political establishment and propaganda media don't want you to know. Ukraine's President Zelenskyy has just banned yet another political opposition party, one that questioned his legitimacy as president, and used Ukraine's Department of Justice to mandate the seizure of this party's members' assets. Now, this is just the latest of Zelenskyy's actions to do this sort of thing. He began banning major political opposition parties in 2022, when he also started banning TV channels that were associated with his political opponents. And he took over total control of Ukraine's largest television networks, now controlled by their government. Now, Zelenskyy's presidential term ended on May 20th. He canceled elections in the name of martial law, suspending Ukraine's constitution so that he could stay in power. Now, defenders of Zelenskyy will say, hey, Ukraine is in the middle of a war. They can't have elections. Just stop for a moment and think, if we accept that excuse or criteria for suspending the Constitution and canceling elections, then we should presume that leaders in our own country and our own establishment media will also use this same excuse and rationale when they suspend our Constitution and our elections, since we too are at war with Russia and China. If you think this sounds crazy, look at what's already going on. They've already started conditioning us to accept a dictatorship by rationalizing their own use of our Department of Justice to target President Trump and other political enemies in their efforts to stay in power.
All right, so that is Tulsi Gabbard. And she's pointing out some of the problems with Zelenskyy that most people don't know. Now, none of that sounds like a friend of democracy, right? None of that sounds like someone who's on the side of individual liberty, because it's not. In fact, if you ask the average Democrat who has taken over the media, who has canceled elections, they would probably tell you Trump did. So Zelenskyy doesn't have to be a saint, my friends. Anyway, I got to go out of time here. SDG.
Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast and increase your financial wisdom. You will find episodes about investments, the infinite banking concept, how to fight inflation, the financial side of retirement, and financial questions Jesse asked his girlfriend. Listen to the Wealth Talks podcast on any podcast platform or watch it on YouTube. There are new episodes of the Wealth Talks podcast weekly. Search for Wealth Talks podcast online and subscribe for free.
My friends, do you smoke, vape, or chew tobacco? If so, Knick Knack Naturals is here to help you crush your vice. Knick Knacks are nicotine mints that completely dissolve in your mouth. No smoke, no spit, no mess. This product is only for folks currently using nicotine products who are looking for a better alternative. Visit knickknack.com and use promo code Todd to save 15%. That's NICNAC, knickknack.com, promo code Todd.